Demon's Souls was a major influence on the gaming industry as a whole, with its death mechanics, focus on stamina, and rewarding difficulty. But here are 10 things you might not know inspired Demon's Souls, complete with a much more clickbaity title. I gotta make a living, okay? We start the list off with an easy one, King's Field. While it's been a wide myth that Demon's Souls was started as a spiritual successor to the King's Field franchise, according to an interview with director Hidetaka Miyazaki, Demon's Souls was not developed as a sequel to King's Field. King's Field definitely influenced the ideas behind Demon's Souls, but we envisioned this as a completely original title. Some of these inspirations include the difficulty of King's Field and the overall atmosphere. Then, of course, there's the Large Sword of Moonlight. The Large Sword of Moonlight, which can be found in the Valley of Defilement, is a staple of From Software as a company, even appearing in Armored Core 4 Answer and originating from the very first King's Field game and From Software game back in 1994, King's Field. Ever since, it's become somewhat of a mascot of From Software. So cute, now we just need a plush. With the release of Bloodborne, it's no secret that Miyazaki has taken major influence from Lovecraftian-style horror, but the first time we saw this was in Demon's Souls with the Old Monk. The Old Monk in his golden garb is a notable reference to the King in Yellow. This is both a book of short stories and play within this book of the same name. The forbidden play, The King in Yellow, is said to induce despair or madness in those who read it. Sound familiar? His revenge complete, the old man withered away, driven to madness by the golden robes that controlled his body. While The King in Yellow was written by Robert W. Chambers in 1895 and Lovecraft was born in 1890, Lovecraft was also heavily inspired by the stories, referencing them in his works and including similar horror themes. We can see other Lovecraftian references with the overall idea and horror of the Old One, as well as the enemies in Latria. This will be shocking to the avid Berserk fan, I know, but Hidetaka Miyazaki regularly references Berserk in the Soulsborne series. All of that started right here with Demon's Souls. The first reference comes in the form of the Dragon Bone Smasher. This weapon is described as a blunt lump of iron that smashes foes, said to have been forged by the ancestors of the Stonefang miners to be utilized against dragons, mocked by blacksmiths who snidely refer to it as a slab rather than a sword.
They say it's as blunt as a bludgeon. A dull blade, meant to slay a dragon. Curious, is it not?
This is very likely a reference to Guts' main weapon in Berserk, the Dragon Slayer. It was too big to be called a sword, massive, thick, heavy, and far too rough. Indeed, it was a heap of raw iron. The sword is huge, like the Dragon Bone Smasher, have similar names and similar strength requirements. Another possibly more interesting reference takes us to the Heart of Latria. I mean, the literal Heart of Latria that's chained up and pumping and producing horrifying demonic beings the old monk has been patching together utilizing the prisoners from below. In Berserk, the Kushan warriors chained together a number of demonic apostles in a similar looking clump and chains. These apostles are mixed with human women to create demon babies. And it's not at all disturbing in any way. In an interview with Eurogamer, Hidetaka Miyazaki listed a number of influences on Demon's Souls. One such influence listed was the film Conan the Barbarian. I'd have to therefore assume the barbarian class in Demon's Souls is an homage to Arnold, a person from a primitive civilization, though lacking in gear, pure strength matched with high health, wielding a powerful club. Yeah, that sounds about right. Another film that was listed as an influence on Demon's Souls was the 1981 fantasy epic Excalibur. While the dark fantasy atmosphere and medieval setting are a given, there are other notable influences. Uther Pendragon is knights wear fluted helmets, the same as the primary knight design for Demon's Souls. The fighting in the film is slow, methodical, and at times brutal, just like the gameplay. It's also interesting that certain special weapons you encounter in the game, such as the Dragon Bone Smasher, Istarel, and the Large Sword of Moonlight are all stuck in the ground and drawn just like the sword Excalibur was from its rock. Frank Frazetta's art is filled with barbarians in powerful poses ready to strike down their foes, demonic beings clad with swords striking down those who'd fight, and other fantastical imagery of warriors and monsters duking it out. So it's no wonder Hidetaka Miyazaki listed his art as an inspiration for the dark fantasy of Demon's Souls. Miyazaki is often cited Fighting Fantasy, created by Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone, and specifically Steve Jackson's Sorcery, of the Fighting Fantasy series, as major influences on his approach to game design. In fact, when he was chosen for a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Golden Joystick Awards, it was these two game design legends who presented Miyazaki with the award.
この二人の大ファンなのでちょっと何を喋るか忘れてしまいました。
I'm such a huge fan of these two guys that I've almost forgotten what I was meant to say.
Fighting Fantasy is a series of role-playing game books, and you can actually get a modernized Steve Jackson Sorcery on iOS if you want to try, which I honestly recommend. In playing, you can see how these influence Demon Souls, and how true they are to role-playing. You create your fantasy heroic character to be whomever you want with whatever backstory you choose, which we've seen used as an approach to every single Soulsborne game, including Dark Souls 3. Sorry, Game Theory. You have to pay attention to environmental details and clues, and oh, lest I forget, you will die a lot in Sorcery. The game is challenging, but similarly rewarding when you finally do figure out your way to the end. This one was actually brought to my attention by Saith Venom Drone in the comments of my Demon Souls lore, the story video. The name Vinland in Demon Souls can be attributed to Garl Vinland and Sellen Vinland of the West. They're both a major part of Demon Souls Church, and Sellen Vinland wears the dull gold armor set, which is worn into battle by women of high rank. In real life, Vinland was the name given to coastal North America by Icelandic Vikings. The historical Vinland Sagas, oral stories that were eventually written down hundreds of years after the events, outlines Norse voyages to Vinland. Vinland itself is disputed to either translate to Meadowland, Farmland, or Wineland, and the in-game Vinland crest showcases what very well could be a grapevine, or perhaps simply living land. Another connection to this history lies in Sellen Vinland's dull gold armor, with her helmet resembling that of a Valkyrie. In Norse mythology, Valkyries are maidens chosen by Odin to choose those slain in the battlefield who were worthy of peace in Valhalla. Today they're often shown to be female warriors who, notably, bear a winged helmet, just like Sellen Vinland. And let's not forget, she and Vinland are from the west, just like how Vinland was west of Iceland and Norway. A spreading fog is consuming the land, brave warriors decide to venture into it, but are never heard from again. 5 kingdoms are at the center of this and trying to figure out how to stop the approaching fog. Meanwhile, there's whispers that an ageless evil reawakened. Sound familiar? It's the plot to From Software's 2002 game Lost Kingdoms, and the overall story of it is near identical to that of Demon Souls. An ageless evil reawakened was a direct quote from the intro to Lost Kingdoms, which exactly describes the old one. Seeping fog is a major element to both games, and of course the 5, or 6 including the giants, kingdoms. I know what you might be thinking at this point. Hey, I knew a lot of these inspirations, so what could number 1 possibly be? Dark Souls. That's right, the timeless From Software classic. It's clear when you compare Dark Souls to Demon Souls just how similar they are in style, and how much Demon Souls seems to shamelessly rip off the Dark Souls' successful formula. I wonder how many people paused the video here and angrily commented that Demon Souls came out first. It's gonna be great. One of the most interesting things to come out of Eurogamer's interview with Hidetaka Miyazaki was the inspiration for Demon Souls' unique multiplayer. Before Demon Souls, there wasn't anything quite like it, with its unobtrusive online elements, like player deaths turning into bloodstains in other players' worlds showing them how the death happened, or messages players can anonymously leave for others on the ground, to its extremely obtrusive elements such as a player suddenly invading your world, to altruistic blue phantoms helping out. All of this stemmed from a broken down car. The origin of the idea is actually due to a personal experience where a car suddenly stopped on a hillside after some heavy snow and started to slip. The car following me also got stuck, and then the one behind it spontaneously bumped into it and started pushing it up the hill. That's it. That's how everyone can get home. Then it was my turn, and everyone started pushing my car up the hill, and I managed to get home safely. But I couldn't stop the car to say thanks to the people who gave me a shove. I'd have just got stuck again if I'd stopped. On the way back home, I wondered whether the last person in the line had made it home, and thought that I would probably never meet the people who had helped me. I thought that maybe if we'd meet in another place, we'd become friends. Or maybe we'd just fight. You could probably call it a connection of mutual assistance between transient people. Oddly, that incident will probably linger in my heart for a long time. Simply because it's fleeting, I think it stays with you a lot longer, like the cherry blossoms we Japanese love so much. All of this turned into Demon's Souls' multiplayer experience, with the random phantoms suddenly showing up in your world to help you or suddenly fight you. It goes to show that sometimes the best inspirations from a game come from life experiences. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. I hope you learned something new and that you'll consider checking out some of my other content. And a huge shout out to everybody who supports me on Patreon. Sunshine Pickle, Zelkin Valorfax, Davis McGrath, Chris Fry, and Jason Buck. Your generosity means a lot. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, you might like my Demon's Souls lore series or other Souls inspiration videos I've made in the past with my buddy Terramantis. I make plenty of other non-Souls content as well, which I put a lot of work into. And I'll see you next time. Peace.